Alrighty. Now making the tooth zappicator is it's pretty easy, but there's a lot of tricks involved. It's there's a bunch of like little pieces of advice to get you through the project. I use this for the handle. This is made by Gum, and it's the Proxa brush, and it comes with two. Right now, it used to only come with one. Now it comes with two, and both handles are different, and we can use them both. And so we do use them both. So it's great. It's the bonus pack. So normally it uses this white one that had the rubber parts. Now they have this all hard blue plastic guy that I almost like better. It's easier to build, and so there you have it. So we're going to use this. So if you can find this in your Walgreens, drugstore, Rite Aid, grocery store, Safeway, it's pretty common. I see it everywhere I go, and I go, there it is. So these are easy to come by. Then these, the Radio Shack. These are the hook-on in-ear phones. They're for listening to your Walkman, like those exist anymore. The problem is they're not all north. You gotta go to Radio Shack and make sure both are north before you buy them. So that's what I do, is I actually go to Radio Shack with my compass, and I take all of these off their rack, and I test each one through the package. And it's nice that they have them done this way. All the rest of their earphones are facing the other way, so you'd have to test them. But these are the best ones, I find. These are almost always north. Once in a while you have one that's north and one that's south in the same package. So you don't want to waste your money on that. You want to get the ones that are both north. And you got to test them. Sometimes you get an entire shipment that they're all south. Sometimes they get an entire, but you know, they're usually all north. So this is part 33-1106 at Radio Shack, and they're the only like earphones they got that like hook around your ear in some kind of ridiculous manner. So we'll use those guys. So that's that. I also have this shrink tube. I've got tons of it, giant roll of it. And you need 2-inch pieces, and you need two 2-inch pieces per toothsy. So I just line it up, and it's kind of just an estimated 2-inch deal. So I just go along and I chop this up every 2 inches. And so that way I now have 4 of these to make 2 tooth zappicators. So we got 2 handles, 2 speakers, 4 of these. So we'll be able to make them, no problem. Alright, the other supplies you need for making one of these is you need the red banana plug. Make sure you're using these singles. Don't use these double guys. These double guys are just for the 30 kilohertz zapper. Because we wouldn't want to use a black one, because these plug into the red, and people would be confused in plugging them into the black if we use black. So we have these singles that are just red, and that's what we use when we're making a tooth zappicator. Okay, I've torn these out of their packaging, and the first thing I do is I take these little earbuds, and they come with this little volume control thing. It's gotta go. So it goes 1 wire to 2 wires. 2 wires go to the earphones, and we just chop the 2 wires, and I just throw this to hell. To hell. Now we have these separate little guys here, and there's a black ring that needs to just come off. Get rid of that. And you can run this wire all the way up here, and this thing just pops out once you loosen the wire up. And get rid of that. So now we have one little North Pole speaker. And you know it's North Pole because you tested it. Oh yeah, look at that. North Pole. I love it. It's north. So it needs to be attracted to the silver part, the north. Right? Same as this one. We're just gonna remove this metal ring. Then you run the wire up. And pull this out. Get rid of the ear hook. And you got a little north speaker here. Alright. Now we need to drill these to make them ready to run the wire through them. I'm going to do this is the one that's more common. We just started adding this one to it, so they're different. It's a weird thing. So we're going to just do the white one first, because that's the one that sometimes you find them only this, and then sometimes they've got like this one as a bonus, the bonus one. So what we need to do is we need to drill a hole in this shaft here for the wire to come out. And what I use is a 5/64 little teeny drill bit to do it. And it does the job fine. I kind of keep as much length as possible, so I grip it with just the bare minimum of what it takes to grip it. And don't break your drill bit off. It's so easy to break it. It's such a little guy. And I try to run this shaft through so that it comes perfectly even in the back here. So it's just going to go straight in. There you have it. Now, I clean it up with an X-Acto knife. There's kind of like a little bit of extra scooch. It's hard to see it on video, but I just clean that off. And now we have this nice little opening here for the wire to go through. Now the trick is to take one of your pieces of 2-inch tubing, run your speaker wire through it, and now this will go into that hole you just made. Like so. And the shrink tube is what's going to hold it in place. I put the writing on top here. And this is pretty funky. This is like a weird little thing. I work this till it's right up to the hole of this white one. These are different. The blue and white one are built differently. The white one has a hole, and you can see that the speaker is a little bit off. It's got like it's kind of cut at a chiseled edge there. I kind of just set it into place in that hole. I add pressure by kind of pulling the wire slightly so I don't break it or nothing. Then I bring the shrink tube right up as far as I can on the speaker. Like so. Then I have a heat gun. I'm going to kind of tighten that up and it'll hold it in place. It's nice to have one of these little heat guns. I wouldn't do my hair with it, but it just shrinks this tubing. The lighter will just get soot all over it, melt stuff, mess your wire up. Can't use a lighter. I've tried. Didn't work. Gotta make sure that, like, what happens is you don't want the heat gun to heat up this chrome plate. That chrome plate will get hot, it'll kind of shrink. Well, actually, it'll stretch out the plastic, and then the thing just falls out, and it ruins the whole thing. So you gotta keep it moving. And while it's hot, you can kind of move it around a little bit. So here we go. It's a beauty. I'm going to take my 1/8 inch drill bit and I'm going to drill it. It's not easy. There's a little ridge by this rubber stuff between the M and the end. You can kind of get a groove in there. And just get your 1/8 inch through it. It's going to be all covered up with shrink tubing in there. Anyway. And then once again with the X-Acto knife, I just kind of clean up all this like kind of extra squack. Get that out of there. Keep your lid on your X-Acto knife so when it falls it doesn't kill you. It'll try. Keep your surface clean. This is going in someone's mouth. Once again, we're just using these red singles. Don't break up the sets of the red and black. I order a whole bunch of the single red ones just to make these with. Once again, we're going to cut off this alligator. So I only need this when I'm making synchrometers. So it's a whole lot of something. Alright. So this needs a piece of shrink tube. Shrink tube will go over here. And the beauty of this is if you forget your shrink tube on this piece, it'll fit over the banana plug, so it's not a complete crazy thing. So you have to kind of look at this. With the gum logo facing up, we're going to come up through that 1/8 inch hole. And this blue rubber stuff kind of creates like some squack that just needs to be pulled away. It'll rip right off. It'll be a little bit smoother. Because when you shrink wrap this, any little bump or thing is kind of going to show. And there's going to be a little bit of a bump anyways. I just pull this up so I can work it. And now I'm going to clean this off. You just want the smallest bit of wire. Try not to break any wires. If you notice that you've actually removed a couple wires or something, just cut it blunt and do it again. There's plenty of wire here. That way you've got a really nice connection. You don't have like one wire kind of scratching around being crazy. This is going to be down over the gum logo. So in reality this is going to be soldered at about this point right here, and then we'll put the shrink tube over it. So while we're working it, we're going to leave it long so that we can kind of just get it done. So because of that, we've got a lot of extra black little speaker wire that I'm going to cut right at about the M. So where the M starts, between the U and the M, I'm going to put my fingers there. And I'm going to cut this guy. And this is one of the tricks, actually this is one of the tricks you helped me with, was establishing which wire was ground and which wire was positive. So we're going to clean this off. And we're going to find inside of this a piece of string, a colored wire, either like red, blue, or green, and then a copper wire, a very shiny copper wire. The copper wire is what we want to get rid of because we don't use the ground. We're only going to use the positive. So I'll grab my needle nose. And I'm going to zoom in on this. What I do is I grab this copper wire and I kind of wrap it leaving the colored one alone. So I wrap the string and the copper wire a little bit so that it just doesn't break. It seems to be better when it's around the smoothness of my needle nose. And I'm going to massage this black wire, the entire length of it, and it's going to grow. Well, it's going to shrink. Copper wire is going to grow. I'm going to get some good length there. I'm going to get some distance. And when I get an inch or more, whatever I can get out of it, I kind of take it as far as I can without breaking anything. I'm going to like lean that over. I use scissors. I'm going to move my colored wire out of the way because I don't want to harm that. I'm going to cut that wire as deeply as I can to get it away. Now the reason why I do that is when I solder it, I don't want these guys fusing together. We don't want anything going through the ground. We don't even want the ground wire. In the best world, there would be no ground wire at all. And yet, all of these have a ground wire, of course, for being. So when we bring this back, we've made a lot of distance from the end of this colored wire. You don't need that much hanging out there. With my fancy fan here, so I'm not sucking fumes. And I'm kind of gonna like rub this, and the red burns off, and then the little wires fan out. And you probably can't see it, so you're just gonna have to believe me. And I don't want to heat it up too much because then it'll heat up the copper wire deep down in there, and they'll fuse together, and it'll ruin the whole function of this. So I'm just gonna do this until it fans it out. I'm gonna try to show you what this looks like. Seeing it on video is not that easy. Let's see what we got here. So I guess you're just gonna have to believe me. But that's fanned out. It really is. There we go. So I've sort of flattened it. You can see all the separate wires now. It's silver. I think the end of the soldering gun seems to tin it a little bit because there's always some solder there. And you still see the red down here. You don't want to cook it off. You really want to just do it quick and don't transfer too much heat. So now I've got bare wire that will solder. So part of the trick of soldering this is just take the two. I don't twist this red wire because it seems to get too tight. I just cut it, remove the shielding, and then I twist them together, making sure that the speaker wire makes a complete wrap. And I put it down here on my wooden surface, hoping that it stays together. And I weigh it down with my little crescent wrench. Real easy. And I'm just going to solder it. So I just kind of put my iron holding the, just put it right there. And I just spread the lead. It's on the lead spreader. And that makes our connection, and we haven't transferred so much heat that we've caused a problem. So there you have it. I've soldered this together. Kind of clean up this hole down here so I don't have any sharp thing to poke through my shrink tube. Carefully work this down. Don't want to kind of gank it up or nothing. And this is kind of hefty now that it's got lead on it. So you just want to kind of bend it into place. Get this to lay down somewhat smooth before we shrink it. So that it looks kind of like this. So this black wire is sort of tight. And then once I've got it the way I like it, I sort of just bend this off. Let me bring that shrink tube up. And that's how you build a tooth C. So now we're just going to shrink this guy into place. So I bring this up, and I actually I leave the writing on this back side here, and I actually leave the shrink tube extending just a little teeny bit, and then it'll kind of close off around this and creates like a little sleeve for the red wire. So now I'll go heat this up. Kind of pull the red wire so that it allows it to shrink up there. Allow that black end there to close up. Once again, don't heat it up too much, you'll melt your black wire on the top here. So there you have it. It's nice and tight. There's a little bit of a bump here where the connection was made by the two wires. Now the only difference between these handles is that this blue one is a solid piece of plastic and it has this weird little clip flap here at the top. So you kind of clip it open and I just tear it off. Get rid of it. Get it out of here. And pretty much the rest is the same. I'll show you what I mean. Alright, so I put a piece of shrink tube on the speaker wire. And what's nifty about this is that it already has a hole. And you want to run the wire in from this side across this top. And then when you run your shrink tube over that, it's a little bit weird the angle of getting it in there, but it holds it real tight once you've got it in place. That's what's sweet about it. I actually like this handle better. Just work it in place without breaking the wire. It's pretty important. Now what I do is, the way this is different is it doesn't have a hole or a tube, it's just this flat rectangle, but I just line it up with the speaker like so, and the shrink tube holds it in place. So once you've got this lined up, I make sure that the shrink tube covers the blue part, so once it gets to the speaker I kind of push it a little bit further like so, make sure my wire is tight, and kind of just wrestle with it. And then I just heat shrink it. So I just shrink that on there. I'll go do that.